Welcome to the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness. We are your hosts, Cassie and Chelsea. I'm Cassie, a single mom living with a chronic illness who is extremely passionate about living a full and happy life.
And I'm Chelsea, a mindset coach that has a passion for helping people learn to put themselves first and be the best version of themselves each and every day.
We came together to create Spoonies Unite, an uplifting community that offers resources, guidance, and support so you can live your best life while giving you the space to be yourself, be heard, and feel understood. We hope that by providing education from experts, we help Spoonies and their loved ones thrive.
This show is not only for those who live with a chronic illness, but their friends, family, spouses, and just anyone else existing on the earth. Our goal is to normalizing having a chronic illness by sharing the real stories with real people and show the world how relatable those everyday struggles can be. There's a little something in here for everyone.
And of course, thank you to our patrons for your continued support making this possible. If you love our show and want to get some extra goodies, go to patreon.com/TheRealSpooniesUnite. Enjoy the show. Welcome to today's episode. Today we are interviewing Emily Brant. Emily is an Indigenous entrepreneur from Tyendinaga, Mohawk Territory, now living in Toronto, Ontario. Emily has overcome much adversity in her life, being born into physical challenges including a rare connective tissue disorder, clubbed feet, and severe scoliosis that led to a near-death experience at age 14. These took a serious toll on her self-confidence and health until she learned to master her mindset and the power of the law of attraction. Emily knows that if she can go from chronic illness, living in scarcity, and shy and hiding to vibrant, abundant, aligned, and unstoppable, then you can too, and she wants to show you how. Emily is trained in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, EFT, emotional freedom techniques, core success training and time techniques, clinical hypnotherapy, and manifestation and law of attraction. She is a manifestation and mindset expert who focuses on teaching women 3 core topics: manifestation for health, wealth, and self-love.
We really enjoyed our conversation with Emily. She is not afraid to call out limiting beliefs for anyone at any point in time, and she kind of called both Cassie and I out on some limiting beliefs that we had while coaching us through different things happening in our lives. Emily is a bright spot of energy out there in the world, and we really, really hope you enjoy our conversation with her. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Real Life Show, Living with a Chronic Illness. Cassie and I have a special guest with us today, Miss Emily Brant. Hi, Emily.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited.
Yay. Well, so a little history. Me and Emily have done some business courses together, and it's super fun. And I had no idea, but one day she starts talking about how she healed her autoimmune from working with manifestation and mindset. And I was like, excuse me, we need to talk. And so that's what brought Emily here. So Emily, will you take, I want to say a little bit of time, but really as long as you need, to just tell us a little bit about your story and how you've gotten where you are today?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, my name's Emily. I am a mindset and manifestation coach, and I specifically love to teach women about manifesting health and healing, as well as wealth and self-love. So my tagline is manifest radiant health, epic wealth, and radical self-love.
Oh, I love
and
that.
I think it's that thank you. I think it's that self-love piece that is the foundation for manifesting everything, including the health, which is what I'm really focusing on these days, which is how you saw my post about my own journey with having an autoimmune. But the story that I usually give everyone kind of when I'm trying to give my bio, because I've been through some other challenges besides my autoimmune, is that I was born into a really rare connective tissue disorder. It's a genetic, it's just passed down genetically, and it's really, really rare. And it basically causes physical deformities and differences, such as extra long limbs, long fingers, long toes, and abnormally long. My arm span is longer than the height of my body, but you can't really tell because everything's bent. So my elbows don't straighten all the way, fingers don't straighten all the way, toes, everything. And it also can cause something called clubbed feet, which is where your feet are turned in or out. And mine were turned so far out that they were like flipped upside down at birth and pinned up against my legs. So the doctors weren't even sure if I would walk. So right out of the gate, right at birth, I came in with a lot of these physical challenges. And so my childhood was just filled with like a cast or a brace constantly being on my leg, or me having a surgery to try to get my feet flat so I could walk. And then I also developed very aggressive scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine. So at the age of 14, I went through a surgery for that. It was a 10-hour surgery, like super high risk surgery. And I ended up having a near-death experience after that, like in the hospital. So yeah, it's been an interesting life, but that's really where all of my passion for personal development and self-love and mindset all comes in, because obviously all of these physical differences not only took a toll on me physically, but like in terms of my confidence and self-love as well, just like feeling so different, trying to fit in. And now I realize the goal is not to fit in. We're all here to stand out, and to just use my story and the lessons that have come with it to help other people and help them rise up and own themselves, own their stories, and manifest their dreams. And this autoimmune thing also happened pretty much through my entire childhood. I always had like a really weak immune system and was always getting sick. And then in 2018, I after being like brushed off by doctor after doctor after doctor, I went to a naturopath, and finally she helped me get diagnosed with an autoimmune, which I kind of always had known, like something's going on with my immune system. It doesn't make sense. I'm sick once a week with a cough or a cold or a flu. So she helped me get that diagnosis. And then working with her, I was on a really, really strict diet. Cassie, I'm sure you know all about this. Like basically no choice of food other than like meat and a few vegetables.
Was it the autoimmune protocol? Yeah,
pretty much. But it was even more specific to me because I did the food sensitivities test.
Right.
So it was like even more extreme. Because there was even certain fruit that she didn't want me having because I was flagging sensitive for it. So I ate like that for like 4 to 5 months, and technically reversed the numbers of my diagnosis. So the diagnosis was for mixed connective tissue disease, which if I don't know that much about it, unfortunately, like that's as long as I had it for, was like I was diagnosed, and then I ate really strictly for those few months. And then technically it didn't show up on my test anymore. But I guess that one, if it goes untreated and it gets like really bad, it can lead to organ failure and all kinds of death, basically, like all kinds of terrible circumstances. So I technically healed by working with this naturopath, but eating so strictly like that is obviously not any way to live. Like it sucks. It's so socially isolating. It's so emotional. Yeah,
it's stressful, it's exhausting.
And you're already exhausted because your body's always attacking itself.
There's a lot of fear around it too, like worried about possible contamination of your food, and there was just a lot of food fear. Like, if I eat this, am I gonna feel like shit? How long for? Is it even worth eating?
Yes,
yeah, totally.
That's exactly it. So then even after I got tested again, and the doctors were like, you're not testing positive for this at all. And so they didn't even send me to the the specialist, but I was still getting sick once a week. My immune system was still seemed to be working against me week after week after week. And I was terrified of food. Like you said, like if I ate any of those foods that were on that list, I would get sick. And so it wasn't until I applied manifestation to my body and to my healing that I actually saw real healing and change. And now I'm just gluten-free and dairy-free. And other than that, pretty much eat what I want. And I rarely get sick now. I'm feeling like better than I ever have. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about this today.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm super interested for you to talk about that too. So can you tell us a little bit more about your your huge surgery that you had too when you were 14 and a near-death experience,
Yeah.
and like what that was like, and then how you recovered from that too, which like you said, got you on the path that you're on. That at 14, that's hard.
Yeah. At 14, through my brain was just like, oh, of course I want to have this surgery. Like my spine is going to be straight. I'm going to look so much better. I was just thinking about the vanity side of it. Cause when you're 14, that's what you care about. Like I couldn't even wear, like I couldn't even wear t-shirts that were fitted, like anything that was fitted. Cause you would see this huge lump in my back. Like I was visibly very hunched over. So that was all that was really going through my mind. And I had had so many surgeries already on my feet that I was like, yeah, I got this. I'm a surgery queen. Bring it on. Can't wait for my new spine. But my mother, like my parents were very not wanting me to have it because they knew how high risk it was. I actually didn't know this. And the doctors basically told them, no, she has to have it or her spine is going to crush her lungs. Like the curve is getting that bad. She won't be able to breathe. And she's probably done growing. She's 14. Like it's now. We got to go now. So it was for her. And I didn't know that until I was older. But they must have pulled her aside and said that. And so, very high risk surgery. They cut your whole spine open. I have a scar around the whole side of my torso, and then all up my back as well, because they went right in and moved the spine, and then now it's held in place with titanium rods. But during the surgery, I lost a lot of blood. I had a blood transfusion, and then after the surgery, like the pain, I just remember waking up and like wishing that they didn't wake me up, because it just felt like I'd been shot everywhere. I've never been shot, but like I imagine that's what it would feel like. Just like holes in your whole body. And then obviously you're on a lot of medication too for the pain, like morphine, like the real stuff.
Often like doesn't feel good either.
No.
Not only with the nausea and stuff, but like morphine made my muscles all cramp, and like so it's just I can't even imagine what that was like for you. I have like goosebumps with you talking about it, just because I can't imagine that level of pain.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've probably had similar experiences. And if you've experienced morphine, it's disgusting. Like you just feel nauseous, dizzy, loopy, angry, like still in pain anyway. But yeah, so during my hospital stay, I had this dream. And prior to this dream, I had always dreamt about my grandmother who passed away when I was 7. So now I'm 14. And I have this dream in quotation marks that I thought was a dream. And I saw her. And previously to this, whenever I saw her in a dream, she was always really excited to see me, and we would get to visit. And it was really, really nice. In this dream, I was like running towards her as my 7-year-old self for some reason. So that's like the age I was when she passed. And I'm so excited to see her, as I always was. And it just felt so real. And it almost felt like coming home. Like I can't really describe it. It felt like she was really there. And I'm like so excited to go up to her. And then she just yelled at me and was like, "You can't be here. I don't want you here. Go back. You have to go find your mother. You can't come with me. I don't want you here." And I was like sobbing, because I thought like, what? Like, why is she not happy to see me? And so my crying woke me up, and I was like soaking my hospital gown and told my mom, "Mom, I just had this terrible dream. My grandma saw me and yelled at me and told me I couldn't be with her." And my mom was like, "Oh, don't worry, honey. Like, it's just a dream." And then she walked out of the hospital room and went and got my dad and was like, "I think Emily just almost died." And my mom sent her back. And then since then, I haven't been able to have dreams about my grandmother unless my cousin just passed away last year in the fall, and that I saw her again in my dreams, but I haven't had a dream about her since. And I don't know if it's because I associate her with dying, but yeah. So that was
I have full body chills from you sharing that story, because I lost my mom 9 years ago, and I have had some really dreams, again in quotes, some super crazy shit. So yeah, that gave me full body chills. And at 14, I mean, goodness, you went through so much. That really shapes who you're going to become. And so what, I imagine that you had to take months of recovery, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so during that time, how did you come into sort of like self-love and then that propel you into your adult years for this
Yeah.
too? Accepting so much, you know?
It definitely wasn't overnight. Like, it's funny because I tell the story and then I tell like what I do now. And it's like, you would think that having that near-death experience is what made me realize like, oh, life is short. I'm lucky to be alive. I should be, you'd think that's what did it. But I actually still, I still had a lot of anger around like, why do I have to go through all this? Why can't I just be a normal teenager like everyone else? And actually didn't really piece together that it was a near-death experience until I was about 20. And then in my 20s is when I really got into personal development, which I had been into since high school, but really started actually applying it to myself. And then realizing, whoa, like I'm finally stepping in and using all the things I've been through, not just as something to hide and be ashamed of, but these are actually my biggest gifts. And these are the things that, like, they're my superpower. They're the things that I can use to help and inspire people. So I didn't really even reflect on the fact that I could have died until years later. But so that happened more in my 20s. But the recovery itself was a few months, a few weeks right in the hospital, and I like really had to learn how to walk again because I was so tall now after being hunched over. Mm-hmm. And then my spine straightened and I gained like 2 or 3 inches overnight, essentially. So I remember even like standing at the sink and being like, I can't reach, like feel like I was walking on stilts or something. So just like learning how to walk. And then they never sent me to physio or anything. So I just had to kind of go home and try to figure it out, but it was a lot of pain and like, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that they never did that. But my family can attest to like trying to help me at home, like get me out of bed to help me to the washroom, things like that. And
it's kind of shocking that you didn't have like physio and
no,
after
that's crazy
as an intense surgery as you had. Like, I feel like that's the obvious next step, but
right? Yeah. So, and then like years later, I ended up finding a personal trainer, and she was like mind boggled that I never had physio, and she basically had to undo years of me not having physio and help. She's like she was my physiotherapist before she would even let me like lift a weight in the gym.
Yeah.
So
which just means that you had a really good personal trainer.
I did. Yeah.
That's what I was just thinking, Chelsea. Yeah. I'm like, whoever she is, I approve.
Yeah. She was great. And she did like so much research on my Beal syndrome and everything. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Emily, I know on like your Instagram, you kind of talked about how like there's the physical stuff that you can do to help take care of yourself. Like you could eat a really restrictive diet as you did and all this other stuff. But then there's also like the deeper levels of like dealing with your emotions, dealing with your soul, kind of stuff like that. And that's kind of was the difference to helping you feel your best. Mm-hmm. Can you go into a little bit about like how you stumbled upon that, how you decided to try that, what you did? And tell that story.
Yeah, sure. So I guess it really started when, like I said, I'd always kind of been passionate about personal development. And like, I think I watched or actually read the book first, The Secret, back in high school with my mom. I used to come home and watch Oprah with my mom after school. And that's really where I started learning about manifestation, but didn't really start diving into it for myself until I was in my 20s. And in just early 2019, I took a manifestation course with Catherine Zinkina. Do you guys know her?
Yes, we love her.
Yeah.
We love her.
Oh my God.
We do her Unleash Your Inner Money Babe 21-day journal like every other month.
And we listen to her podcast and we talk about them all the time. And we send each other like every Instagram story she ever does.
Nice.
It's true. Which, if you didn't know, she's now sending text messages out. So sign up for her text message list. I did this morning.
She sends you random manifest like inspirational.
It's just,
Oh,
it's just,
cute.
it's so nice. And then I feel
Yeah.
special because I have Catherine Zankina in my phone as a contact, even though it's
That's
like
awesome.
not exactly her phone number, but still. Anyways.
Yeah, I love her so much too. So I took her Manifestation Babe Academy, and then when I took that, I was like, I need to see if I can apply this to my health. And that's something that most people weren't doing it. Like everyone was taking it for money and for business. And I did apply it to that stuff too. And it really helped propel my business, which really didn't even exist when I first started taking her course. And then, so she was a huge inspiration that like, she's such proof that you can do this stuff for a living and make very good money at it too. So there was that. And then also during that, or kind of like towards the end of that, is where I got the news that I no longer technically had my autoimmune and like was feeling better symptom wise as well. And so I actually won like our May 2019 round. I won the favorite transformation and got to go on her podcast and got to go meet her in LA and hang out with her for the day.
I'm so jealous.
I knew you guys would
Fangirl.
appreciate that.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
So fun. She's the best. And so, yeah, I got spoiled by her.
So she really is the best.
She really is. Even better, like even nicer in person.
Because she just looks
So
like a
sweet.
freaking pure soul.
Yeah.
Like she talks and you're like, but she's for real. This is who she is. And it's like nice. Yeah.
And this podcast is now sponsored by Manifestation Babe.
Right.
That'll be a dream come true. Let's manifest it, guys.
This is how all my conversations go. So I formed a mastermind with girls who also were inside of Catherine's programs. And so like half of our calls are just us like fangirling over Catherine.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We need to get in on that call. Oh my God. Because we're like fangirls over here too.
Yeah.
So cool. So, okay. So I'm like really interested by this too. So, okay. Speaking of Chelsea asking about like the physical stuff and then involving this manifestation and mindset part. So for example, with that super restricted diet, particularly the autoimmune protocol for me, and I also had the food sensitivity testing done. And so there was a bunch of stuff I couldn't have also that were approved on the AIP, but I couldn't have. So also super duper restricted down as well. I did it for 2.5 years. And it was like a long 2 years, but I ended up finding, especially towards the end of it, my stress around what I was eating, I think was like causing reactions to the food. Yep. So I started like learning and reading and listening to podcasts or whatever, and realizing that essentially if you sit there and let's just say you're going to eat a chocolate chip cookie, because apparently for, you know, us with autoimmune disorders, that would be a terrible thing, but I love me some chocolate chip cookies. Anyway, if you're going to eat your chocolate chip cookie, if you sit there and eat it and stress about it and you're like, oh my God, I'm eating this chocolate chip cookie, you know, this is so bad, what am I thinking, is this going to make me suffer later, I'm going to get sick, like you're basically making that happen. But if you sit there with your chocolate chip cookie and you're like, I'm going to enjoy this, it's worth whatever it's going to be, yum, lucky me, then your body will react totally differently if it's not producing that cortisol, you know, to go with whatever you're consuming. So that was a huge shift for me, like having that understanding. And then it was the combination of that happening around like a couple months leading up to, I had a small bowel obstruction in the hospital. I couldn't eat. And then I was only allowed to eat like baby rice cereal. And those were the first grains I'd had in 2 years. And I was like so stressed out and depressed that I was going to be eating baby rice cereal grains when I'd been grain free, doing so good for 2 years. And it ended up that the baby rice cereal was actually like totally what I needed. And it sat really well. And now white rice is like one of the best things I can eat for me. But it was a combination of like I said, learning about the impact of stress, particularly when you're eating your food, and then being forced into coming off the AIP and going a totally different route. And now I'm not really following much of a diet at all because I'm still in a process of trying to find out what's right for me. I've done food sensitivity testing and I'm not eating what doesn't agree. But I would love if you could talk about manifesting, like particularly when it comes to diet, because I'm sure a ton of our listeners are on restricted diets or are trying various diets to find what's right for them, and what that mindset and manifestation aspect could do to help that very tangible, practical piece, you know?
Yes. Okay. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah.
So there's like the manifestation layer, which was fantastic. And that's what I'll talk about just now. And then there's also like, I went deeper on my own beyond the Manifestation Babe Academy, and I got to like the emotional layer and then the spiritual layer. And that's really important as well. But in terms of just manifesting, I literally just decided like, oh yeah, I'm in control of my thoughts, and I'm in charge of my subconscious mind, which literally runs the body. The subconscious mind actually has a blueprint. This is something I learned in my NLP training. The subconscious mind actually has a blueprint of your body running at perfect health. So your body knows how to run everything perfectly. You don't even have to tell it to do anything, which is really empowering to know. So I just kept reminding myself of that. And I kept saying, I'm gonna rewire my identity so that instead of identifying as a person who's chronically ill or sick all the time, I am a healthy person who can eat whatever she wants, or like I can eat whatever I want. My body responds well to everything I eat. I enjoy my food. I started saying affirmations like this and literally writing it down every day. And then another favorite affirmation was, I am full of healthy cells, because that really helped put it in perspective. It was like, oh, wow, look at all these cells in my body and they're all working for me. Like they're all working to make me healthy. Of course, they're not working against me. Why would they work against me? They're all working for me and I'm full. And I would like literally every time I stretched or did yoga or anything, I'd visualize these like glowing, like this golden white light, and almost like my cells were glowing. And I'd like, look at all these healthy cells in my body and they're working for me. And so, affirmations, I know some people are like, oh, they don't work. They're just like frou-frou. They work if you can actually put feeling and emotion behind them and like excitement behind them. So if that feels too far out for those of you who are listening who are like, that would be so unbelievable for me to say I can eat whatever I want when it's clearly not true, is that's where I was too in the beginning. So you can just say, I'm choosing to believe, basically before any affirmation, but especially for these ones, if that's too far out, like I'm choosing to believe my body responds well to everything I eat. I'm choosing to believe my body knows how to heal. I'm choosing to believe my body really is working for me. And that's the thing. That's why I want to talk about the other layers, is that your body has no reason to attack itself if you aren't attacking yourself in some way emotionally or spiritually, because there's like no medical explanation, as you guys probably know, and probably talk about this on your show, like for most autoimmunes, there's no, like doctors can't explain why. There's no medical explanation why the body attacks itself, essentially. So if you look at, am I attacking myself emotionally, or even just like bounding myself in some ways, or any emotions that I haven't dealt with or haven't unleashed and like let out or communicated? And then spiritually too, am I spiritually healthy? Meaning, is my soul happy? Am I like doing things that light me up? Am I doing things that feel like my purpose? Am I contributing in a positive way? Or am I just going to my job that I hate and then coming home feeling crappy about it? Like for instance, I only just went full-time into my business, which is my dream business. Yay! Yeah. But before that, I made time, because I was still working at a soul-sucking job 40 hours a week. I still made time to come home and record my podcast, right? Like you guys are doing that. This is your outlet to make your soul happy. So you still have to look for ways of like, how can I take care of my soul, my spirit? It seriously matters. And even Brene Brown says in one of her books that if you squander your gifts, like your innate gifts that you were born with, that you're meant to share with the world or like express in some way, you're not just hurting the people who aren't then benefiting from it, but you are harming yourself. And she says it can manifest as physical illness. And I was like, that makes so much sense. That's probably why I was sick for so many years, because I was just hiding my true passions, afraid to express them, afraid to express my interests. Like I didn't think I had permission. I was like, who am I to talk about this stuff? and just kept hiding. And that's so bad for your spiritual health, and it can manifest as illness in your body.
I freaking
awesome,
love
Right?
that. I'm sorry. I was sitting there because I was
Yeah.
like running through all this stuff in my mind. Like, yeah, you know,
Right.
I mean, imagine if we all just got to like follow our dreams and actually like did the things that made us happy and pursue the passions. I mean, everyone would just be walking around so much happier.
Yes.
But yet I have definitely like read and listened to a lot of stuff like that. Even when people say, you know, it's like if you're, so when I got diagnosed with this like gut disorder, with Crohn's, I was unhappy in an aspect of my life at the time. And like, I remember one of my friends just being like, well, duh, you know, you're just suppressing all these emotions and not saying anything. Everything's being squashed down. No wonder you have this like gut disorder. And then I even remember, so my mom was an acupuncturist, and one of her students said to me that she was like, well, you know, when you've just been like taking in, you know, just shit, you're basically just full of shit. What do you expect? You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I am, you know, and so I totally resonate with all of that.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks to hear. Like, no one wants to think like I manifested this, or like I stored up my emotions or didn't do something this, so therefore like I caused. Like, I think it's almost easier for people to think, yeah, exactly. Of course you didn't consciously manifest it. Who would consciously want this?
Yeah.
But like, another thing that really, really kind of blew my mind. If you're ever wondering like what are my limiting beliefs, and Tony Robbins teaches this, is to ask, which parent did I crave more love and attention from? Not which one did I get it less from, just which one did I crave it more from? And then who did I have to be in order to get that? And I realized mine, even though I did get more attention from my mom, was like, I got lots of special time with her and attention from her when I was in the hospital, when I was sick. So I had to be sick to get special time with mom. So no shit, I developed this autoimmune where I'm always sick. And that was just like, whoa. Right?
Oh my God, that's so interesting. So I have an 11, almost 12-year-old boy too. And now I'm thinking like, I want to ask him, you know, but,
yeah. Crazy.
Gosh, that is really interesting. I'm learning so much. I'm so excited that we got on this call.
Me too. And for the stomach too, you mentioned emotions, like that's where all our emotions are stored, is like in the stomach. I have stomach things too.
Yeah. I wasn't expressing anything for years, like the things that I really wanted or like feelings. And I was definitely just like this bundle of like turmoil inside. And then some of my situations changed, and then I started feeling quite a bit better for a while. And now that I've been like unwell again for a few months, I'm kind of reflecting like, okay, what am I doing now? Which I have a few ideas in mind, but yeah, it's very, very, Chelsea, you're so smirky over there.
Hey everyone, I know you're all cozy listening to our episode, but I wanted to take a moment to let you know how you can become even more cozy with some Spoonie merch. All right, so we got a merch store. Hopefully you've looked at it. If you haven't, that's okay. That's why I'm telling you about it now. We got some cool stuff on there. There's sweatshirts, there's long sleeve shirts, there's t-shirts, there's tank tops, there's stuff that just says the real life Joe living with a chronic illness, so you can rep our podcast. But there's also stuff on there to just celebrate the Spoonie life you are living. We've got comfy stuff with, this is my all out of spoons outfit. So when you're not feeling your best, you can get all comfy cozy with a shirt that tells the world that you ain't feeling great and leave you alone, if that's your thing. We've also got stuff to help inspire you. I have a long sleeve shirt from our merch store that says dream, be happy, seek fulfillment, live your best life. And every time I put on that long sleeve shirt, I just feel so inspired and ready to take on the world. And it just reminds me that there's great stuff happening. So if you are interested in getting some Spoonie merch of your own, you can either head over to our website, therealspooniesunite.com, or the easiest thing is honestly just to swipe up or swipe down or whatever direction you need to get to the show notes, because the link will be there. Now back to the show. So one thing,
yeah.
a question I have for you, Emily, is so another book that if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you may have heard us mention before. It's The Lady's Handbook to Her Mysterious Illness by Sarah Raimi, which we love the book. We love Sarah. It's all amazing. And she goes
We
into this
fangirl over her like
Yeah.
Catherine Zenkina.
Oh, really? Okay, I
you
have
should
not
The
heard of
podcast
her.
is also sponsored by Sarah Raimi.
Manifesting.
And so
Yeah,
she
check her out too.
in her
Okay.
book, she does a really, really good job of, in my opinion, of like going deep into the not only like, there's physical aspects and there's emotional aspects. And so one of the things she talks about is like, if you are doing all the affirmations and the meditation and trying to work through stuff and you're going to therapy and you're doing all the things to heal your emotions and your soul and maybe you're not getting better, how that can turn into this self-hatred cycle instead and this self-blame. And it can be this kind of toxic positivity that you're forcing on yourself. So what are your thoughts on ways to either not get kind of sucked into that cycle or not and have not your positivity and your desire to heal yourself from the inside out turn into that kind of negative downward spiral?
Chelsea, good question. Such a good question. So this is the interesting thing with manifestation is that you have to want your desire and be really clear on the desire and then do all the spiritual work, like release the past, release the limiting beliefs, forgive who you need to forgive, like all of that. You need to act as if you already have the thing. You need to raise your vibration, take the inspired action to make it happen. But then the last step, I actually have like a 6-step process that I follow, and it's on my website if anyone wants it. Essentially emm.com/manifest. There's like the 6-step process. So step 6 is actually like being able to surrender and let it go and be like detached from it. So the thing was that you have to kind of recognize that it can't hurt you to do that type of work, right? Like what's it going to hurt doing therapy and working on your emotions and working on your soul? I'm pretty sure it's only going to benefit you. So like, I just knew that even if it didn't work when I was saying these things and trying all these things, I was going to be fine because I had already been sick every week, sometimes twice a week. I had already been suffering, from food triggers and sensitivity. So it was like, well, like if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, that's cool. And I'm also open to something better with anything you're manifesting. Even with like trying to manifest a job, let's say, or like a romantic relationship or certain promotion at work, you always have to be cool with like, thanks universe for this or something better, and trust that every time you've ever not gotten what you want, it's always because something better has come in its place. And when I look back in my own life, that has been so true.
I really love that answer and explanation. And as you were talking through all the steps, I was like, oh, the last one's going to have something to do with faith and trust.
Letting it go. Yeah.
Letting it go, which is the thing that personally I struggle with the most, as Cassie can.
You're not alone. You're not alone. Yeah.
All the time, she's like, will you stop trying to control the situation? And I'm like, I want to. And I really loved that explanation of like, well, you have to surrender to it. And yes, maybe you're not noticing the results that you really want. Maybe you're not feeling better in the way that you really want to in the time frame. Because I'm always with my time frames and the time frame that you want. But then being able to know, well, the work that you're doing is not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. So even if you're maybe not seeing exactly the results you want, but just stay with it, keep doing it, keep believing. I really like that.
And trust that like everything, if it's not a blessing, it's a lesson. So like there's more healing to do. There's more learning to do. There's a reason that everything's happening for you, not to you, always.
Yeah. And like, even the little things of like if Chelsea and I were going to reach out and ask someone to be on the podcast, for example, it'd be like, why not? Let's just ask them. If they say no, it doesn't mean no forever. It means no right now. And so I was like, I'm going to reach out to Selma Blair and I'm going to be like, Selma, will you be on our podcast?
Cassie, have you done that yet?
Yeah, dude, I totally did. But, and it was like,
That's
if
awesome.
she even gets it. But there was part of me that was like, okay, if she gets this Instagram message that I'm sending her, I believe that she would say yes to being on our podcast. I really believed it. But I was like, you know what? Like, the universe, it may not get to her. I reached out on Instagram to a freaking celebrity who's like amazing. I'm sure she didn't even get the message yet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it was even little things like that, just having total faith of not fear of failure, you know, or rejection. But Chelsea and I definitely in the last few months, there's been multiple times that we have like leaped for something, and kind of when there's that like fear, sort of had each other to bounce off of like, no, just if you don't get it, there's going to be something better. There's a reason. Mm-hmm. And it's nice. It's almost like we're each other's subconscious sometimes. Ooh, weird. How fun.
Which is good, because my subconscious needs all the help it can get at times. So sometimes it's very stubborn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it does make a difference. And like truly trusting that those things will happen. And it takes a lot of work. And so, okay. So then going into like getting also like really deep again, like not that we haven't been this whole time, but, so I have definitely gone on my own like roller coaster journey with my health of like how much I am able to control it. And so I've gone through some phases of like super negative victim attitude, like you were saying, kind of that you experienced when you were 14 of like, why me? Why is this happening? I think I've gotten really good at not staying in that place for very long. Yes. I'm pretty good at getting out of it pretty quickly. I've always been pretty good at that. But I will say that I have had a harder time trusting that I could be better. Like I remember when I saw one of my mom's students who's an acupuncturist, and she like was doing a whole bunch of questions. It was the first time I was seeing her in a few years. And she asked me, she's like, you know, do you believe that you can heal? And
that's a good question.
It was like, I know. And
Did I kind of
just, right. I first like stared at her like, how dare you, you know? And then I was like, fuck, I don't think I do. You know, how dare you ask me that and put me on the spot? And she kind of looked at me and she's like, well, this might be something to explore. And then I was like, okay. And so, and that was 2 years ago.
That's an acupuncturist saying this to you? Oh, I love her.
So she was trained by my mom, and my mom was like, my mom taught me about manifesting when I was like 10. So my mom was very like in touch with this world. That's how I was first exposed to like all of this kind of stuff. I mean, I remember even like driving to school and being worried about a test, and she'd be like, well, darling, you just have to manifest that you're going to do well and it'll all be fine, you know?
Oh, she's British.
So her apprentice, her student who had a lot of those same questions in these acupuncture appointments, they would dive super deep because ultimately, you know, everything, emotion, stress, all of it's involved. But that was a question that really struck me. And so one of the things I'm enjoying from this call with you right now is that you did, on that super deep layer, believe that you could heal and get better. And so for those of us out there that aren't there yet, I did write down on here that I'm choosing to believe my body is working for me to support me and my dreams. And I'm like, I should listen to that. I should say that every day. And so what perhaps advice would that be, the best advice you could maybe offer for some of us who are starting from like because I believe in manifestation wholeheartedly. I talk to my son about it. My friends, Chelsea and I talk about it. I 100% believe that you can manifest like what you want, but like kind of not with help.
But then,
I guess.
Because your history is like, you're wavering because you're,
It must be a limited belief. And so for those of us listening who are like, oh yeah, you know, this is just another like drink kale smoothies, do yoga, you know, meditate your way to health. I want them to see that you're living proof that this is a real thing. So what can you share for our listeners of helping us to bridge that gap between like, I don't believe it's possible for me to maybe it could be possible for me?
Yes, I love that question. So it really comes down to identity and the subconscious mind, because the thing is like, if you guys know that it's possible for someone else, but you think it's not possible for you, that's totally because you identify as someone who's chronically ill And that is your identity. And that is what your subconscious mind, it creates your reality. It takes in information, a lot of information, 2.6 million bits per second compared to 146 consciously, just to give you an idea how much is coming at you subconsciously. And then it gets filtered based on identity. So how you identify yourself, beliefs, values, decisions, things like this. So identity is a huge piece, and obviously your beliefs and your values. But if you're telling yourself and you're identifying as someone who's always sick, like this, I think was the biggest shift for me, was like, what if I just choose to change that identity and choose to change the story? What if I choose to identify as someone who's healthy and can eat whatever she wants? What if I choose to enjoy food? Because I manifest based on my future self, not based on the past. Because if I was just manifesting based on past, I'd still be sick right now, because I was sick, honestly, guys, like my whole life, pretty much once a week, getting a stupid cough or a cold or something. But now I've just rewired that identity that that's not me anymore. And the other thing about your subconscious mind is it loves to prove you right, and it loves to follow orders. So if you're always saying, and it doesn't process negatives. So if you're always saying, I don't want to get sick, it doesn't hear the word don't, it just hears get sick. And then you'll get sick and it's like, yay, I was right, I knew it. Like, it just loves to prove you right, whatever you're saying to it. So that's why you can literally that's why affirmations work so well. And just like, even Catherine once said that she was getting sick with a cold, and then she remembered, hey, like I'm in charge here, like subconscious mind, listen up, we are friggin' healthy. Like, I'm going to be healthy. This is happening. And so she wasn't saying words like, listen, we're not going to get sick. Because then it just puts that image in your mind of you getting sick. And it's very symbolic. It's very like imagery based. So whatever picture you put in your mind is what you'll get. So as often as you can put pictures in your mind of you being healthy, and again, rewiring their identity, that's where you'll shift. Like, I know the struggle of of struggling to believe it, but it's like working a muscle. It's like working out at the gym. The more you do it, the stronger that muscle will get. And then you'll start to actually see shifts in your reality, because that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because I always give examples with stuff of like, if you say, don't think about a pink elephant.
Yes, exactly.
What are you picturing? Obviously, like a pink elephant. That's really important, because I definitely, like, for example, tonight I'm taking my immune suppressant shot at home, and I have been thinking all weekend, like, I'm probably going to feel really tired after I do this, and I'm not going to feel very good these next couple of days. Dang it. I wanted to feel good for these things this week, and I'm not going to feel good. I hope I do, but I'm sure I'm not going to. I should prepare myself. And it's a lot of like fear-based, and a lot of the like, don't think this, or fear going to think this, instead of being a little bit more positive and saying, like, it's kind of like you have to program. You can't just tell people how not to do something. You have to also tell them like how to do something. Exactly. And so you need to talk to yourself that way too. Like, maybe tell myself how I can feel better, or believe that I could, rather than just stuck in the can't and the don't. And the whole, like, your subconscious wants to prove that it's right. I've been working with this coach who works with chronically ill people. Her name is Lori Gray. We did an episode with her, and you should totally check her out too, because she's awesome. Cool. I love this podcast. We have connected with such great people. But my homework this week was, we found that one of my like limiting beliefs was, I can't be successful with a chronic illness. And successful in every aspect, not just wealth, but just like all the things. Yeah. And so my homework this last week was proving and finding evidence of being able to get into why my chronic illness makes me more likely to succeed. Yes. So I had to sit down and write a list of like evidence to support this new belief, which is a totally different way of thinking than like breaking down the limiting belief I have, but just supporting the one that we're trying to implant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the evidence is so smart. It's such a good idea. I do this in my money mindset program. Actually, I have people list out their biggest limiting beliefs around money, And then the next day, like the next training, they go through and they actually they challenge it, and then they look for proof of the opposite. So for me, one of mine was that like rich people are snobs or greedy, because I just grew up with my mom saying like, oh, look at those snooty rich people or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so that was a belief. And so then when gathering proof, I was like, look at Catherine. Like, she's the nicest person I know. She's rich. She's doing good with her money. And then I thought of all these other coaches, and even like Ellen DeGeneres, Oprah, like, look how kind they are. Look how much good they do. And so like gathering that proof really helped me to believe it more. So yeah, I love that evidence. Your subconscious mind loves evidence. It is an evidence collector too, but it collects evidence based on what you plant in there. So if you were to say, my mom likes my brother better than me, every little comment that your mom makes that doesn't even mean anything, but it could possibly mean something, you're going to be like, see, I knew it. She doesn't like me as much. And you're just constantly trying to collect proof of what you decided, because that's what your subconscious loves to do. So it's really important to make that initial decision. So for you, for this week, I want you to decide that you're going to feel amazing and energized, or at least like normal. You're going to feel no different after you get your shot. And then just collect proof every day when you do feel good and when you do feel energized.
It's going to be a really good test, because
so
I can already feel myself. I can already like feel myself like rejecting it, like that's not possible. Yes. Yeah. So I will take that challenge. And Chelsea, you can help me to keep it like, I need accountability. Like, yeah. That is really good. And also for those listening too, when this whole little part of this conversation started, because I'm like, I see you and you've made it happen, but I can't. And then you kind of saying like, if you see it's possible for someone else, like, why isn't it possible for you? Yes. It is a reminder that like, what if other humans can do it?
Yes.
Like, why can't we? What makes us so special and different that we can't be like the other humans who are also able to do these things or have these things? And that's been something that's really helpful for me sometimes when I'm like, woe is me, or whatever. I kind of remind myself like,
and the thing is, when you see someone else on your path who's like me showing up on this interview with you is not a coincidence. Like me showing up and being like, guys, I healed from my autoimmune and I feel great and I'm healthy all the time. That's the universe putting things in your path, like showing you it's coming to you. Like it's coming to you next. That's why you're talking to me right now. And if it's and if it's humanly possible for me, that means it's humanly possible for you. If you have that belief, which a lot of people do, that maybe it's possible for other people, but not for me. That's because, and this is where you go to the emotional layer of healing, you have some sort of fundamental belief that you're fundamentally flawed in some way, or you're not enough in some way. So that's where the emotional work kicks in, because it's like, well, yeah, like what? There's nothing that makes me any different than you. Mm-hmm. And if it's humanly possible for one, it's humanly possible for all.
It is.
Oh, that's so cool.
So with all of this like wonderful woo-woo stuff, as people call it, will you in addition share what you are doing in your like outward life, perhaps daily? Like, for example, are there medications you're taking? You said you're gluten-free and dairy-free. Like, what does your lifestyle look like that is being supported by all this work that you're doing for your body, for yourself?
Yeah, so that's a great question too. I'm not taking any medications. I'm not. I take like a vitamin D and a vitamin C and B12. Those are the 3 that I take every day. In terms of eating, I try to, like I said, gluten-free, dairy-free. I usually have a smoothie every day with spinach and berries or something, like or a green smoothie every day. And I eat fairly healthy, but also like I have a lot of like treats, dairy-free ice cream, gluten-free goodies, especially this week because I've been celebrating quitting my job. But like I don't eat so strictly anymore at all. Like as long as it's gluten-free, dairy-free, I'm good. And then I've also set the intention this year to move every day, because I feel best when I start my day with movement. And so once COVID hit, I was able to kind of implement that. And like each morning I will foam roll. I don't know if you guys know foam rolling. Yeah.
Very familiar.
Yeah. So
we're
good.
both Pilates instructors. I don't know if you knew
okay.
that.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yeah. So I will foam roll and then stretch, and then sometimes that's all I do, and then sometimes I'll go on to do like a workout on YouTube, or make sure I walk that day or do yoga that day. So I set this intention that I move my body every day and I connect with my body just to cut, like, because I like honoring it, and then I always feel better, I work better, I focus better. And if I miss it some days, then so what? Like if I'm being called to rest, I'm being called to rest. Like I'm not beating myself up if I don't move one day or anything like that. So yeah, that's basically my routine.
Yay, thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
I think that's just important to share for anyone who's listening and being like, well, maybe she's on this or that.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah.
And I know like we've kind of touched a little bit on the woo-woo, and I just listened to your podcast episodes where you went into some of the woo-woo stuff you've done recently. And is that like, you talk about like breath work, doing some of the kind of deeper spiritual practices, like you've done like the Akashic Records readings, which if you're listening and you're like, what gibberish are you talking about, Chelsea? Just look up Emily's podcast and listen to her episodes on the woo.
Yes.
Because you do a much better job explaining it than I would right now. Are those things that you're kind of continuing to do to keep kind of that emotional and soulful level of healing, or is that something that like you feel like you've gotten to a pretty good place in?
No, I think the journey is always ongoing. Like, so firstly, I didn't know what an Akashic record meant or what it was until like a month ago. So that's why I'm sharing it on my podcast as I discover it and as I dive into it too. Like it's pretty new to me as well. Obviously manifestation and mindset and this stuff, even things like smudging and energy cleaning. As you guys know, I'm from a native reserve. So that's a Mohawk tradition, is that you smudge to cleanse your energy. So none of that stuff was new, but like I've been getting into the Akashic Records readings, which is like looking into past lives and even looking into the future and kind of connecting with spirit guides and seeing what you're here in this lifetime for and what you've mastered in other lifetimes. And that was just more for fascination, but actually did kind of lead me to realizing what more I need to heal. And so I found out through the Akashic Records that I have mastered a lot of things in other lifetimes. My soul is apparently really old, 53 million years worth of lifetimes old. And that I've mastered things like reading and writing in other lifetimes, which is why it comes natural to me now, which is crazy that she said that, because it does. But she didn't know me at all. And she said a lot of things that just made so much sense without knowing me at all. And then I kept asking, like, what do I need to heal before I can reach my next level in business and in income and everything? And then she said they just kept saying, like, there's just like a little more self-love, like that self-love piece. And I kind of got the sense that that's what I'm here to master in this lifetime, is self-love. And it's probably why it's at the root of everything I've been doing and helping people with as well. So then that was cool. So then with that in mind, I went and did breath work, because I also have a really a tight upper stomach. I don't know what you call like I almost feel like I have rocks in my stomach, and I get a lot of bloating as well. So that's something I'm still healing. And I went into breath work with this intention, like, okay, there's some piece of self-love here that I was told I have to heal. So that was my intention, to heal it and like get rid of this stuck whatever's holding in my stomach. And then during the breath work, this was insane. You guys can cut me off if I'm rambling, but during the breath work, so I went in with the intention of healing this last self-love piece and releasing things from my stomach. And then I was flashed all these images, because I'm like, I've owned my story now. I share my story. Like, I really love myself now. I don't know what else I'm supposed to be doing. But then I was flashed all these images of every time ever that I was like bullied, or that I had a cast, like I saw like myself with casts on my legs, or I saw like fighting with my mom. Like any time that I ever felt sadness was like flashed before my eyes, and I was sobbing. And you feel really good when you're doing it, just to let it out. And so I was like, oh, it's not about like owning myself now. It's about the emotions that never were felt in the moment. Because I didn't a lot, like I was always the strong one, the tough one. I didn't want anyone to see me cry. I didn't want to be vulnerable. So I never even felt those back then, and they all came to the surface. And so I'm doing breath work again this Saturday because I feel like there's still more there in my stomach. But that's one of the healing modalities that I'm going to be recommending to everyone who's taking my Manifest Radiance course. Like for your continued healing, highly recommend breath work. It's so powerful. It's so cool.
That's awesome.
Cool. I'm so glad that you shared that.
That's really neat.
Thanks.
I know.
Yeah. I love this stuff.
I want to try breath work. I'm kind of scared too.
I was too. I was so scared.
I want to just to see what would come up. But so you mentioned your Manifest Radiance program. Can you give our listeners a little bit of some information about that?
Yeah, for sure. So, I don't know when this episode is going to air, but it probably will be up on my website either way as a self-study. And then watch out for any live rounds that we're going to do. But it's a 3-week program where we go through these 3 layers together. So mind, spirit, and emotional healing, because chances are, like, my target audience is people who are already doing all the physical things. You're already restrictively eating. You've been to the doctors, you've been to the naturopath, you're trying all the things to heal, you've ordered all the supplements. So it's to walk you through like rewiring your mind, and then doing any emotional work, any forgiveness work, any healing you need to do there. And then also looking at your spiritual health. And so it's to take you from feeling stuck and like frustrated and like your body's working against you and sick all the time to actually manifesting radiant, perfect health. So I'm really excited about it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I want to do it. Now I'm like, this freaking podcast is like the best thing ever because we connect with all these people, but then I'm like, I want to do this and I want to do that.
Right.
This person.
I know. Me too. I have interviewed people on my podcast too. And one of the girls who does the breath work, she was on my podcast talking about that. And so yeah, I love it.
So great. Well, Emily, this has been so fun talking to you. How can our listeners connect with you? Because I'm sure they're going to want to follow your story more.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So the best place to connect with me is probably on Instagram at essentially EMM. M with 2 M's because M with 1 M was taken. So that's why it's M with 2 M's. Or you can tune into my podcast, The Miracle Mindset, as well.
It's a good one. Check out those
Thank you.
blue episodes. They're pretty fun. I like them a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was so amazing. I am so glad that you guys connected and that you came on the show. And this just like, what day is it today? Monday? Okay. For some reason, I thought it was Friday while we were talking, but this is a great start to my week. Now I sort of feel like, maybe I will feel good from my shot. What?
Yes. Just treat it like a game, right? Because what have you got to lose?
That's
just
true.
Treat it like a fun experiment. That's how I treat my whole life now. It's like,
yeah,
it's just this game that we're here to play. Like,
yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, I feel revived from this call. Thank you so much.
Good.
Yay.
You're so
Thanks,
welcome.
Emily.
Thank you guys for having me.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please write us a review to help us reach more people like you.
If you'd like to connect with Cassie and I, you can find us on Instagram at The Real Spoonies Unite. You can also join our private Facebook community, Spoonies Unite, or you can visit our website, therealspooniesunite.com, for all sorts of resources and to stay up to date with our current projects. And don't worry, you can find all of these links in the show notes below.
Thank you to our wonderful Spoonie patrons for all your support, and you can become one too. That's right. All you have to do is go on over to patreon.com/therealspooniesunite, and you can get all sorts of extra goodies like videos of our episodes and more.
Any support is greatly appreciated. It helps enable us to create more content for all of you, as well as make this podcast sound better and better. Thanks for listening. We can't wait to be back in your ears soon.